Right, what are
Very
we
fair.
doing?
Hopefully we're doing Stop the Lights.
Hey!
Hello, friends. You may have thought we forgot about you, but actually, no, we haven't. We are back. It is Olivia and Ciarán with Stop the Lights. How are you all doing? And Ciarán, long time no chat.
Olivia, hello, how are you? I love hearing your voice. I even more love hearing you say stop the lights. Yes, I've been dying to talk about Formula One, and I'm so glad that we're back. Are you excited that we're back?
I am indeed, and apologies to our listeners. We had life was lifing, shall we say? So we had to take an unexpected hiatus, but we are back, and we are, enjoying the F1 season so far this year. We are just come back from summer break, and well, like 2025 so far has been a dominant season by one team in particular, and for once, it's not Red Bull, it is McLaren.
It is the F1 is just papaya colors everywhere, and I, for one, am very much enjoying the McLaren dominance. It's funny though, because I wouldn't have been enjoying dominance if it was Red Bull or Ferrari. McLaren dominance, though, I'm very much enjoying it.
Yeah, I'd say so. And you've got your neon colors flying constantly now, and you're just like, woo! It's like, oh, I wonder which of my boys is going to win this weekend, and the rest of us are just like, shut up, Kieran.
But you see, Zach Brown is a nice, likable guy, unlike the former Red Bull team principal Christian Horner. He's gone since we last spoke, Olivia.
Honestly, actually still can't believe that. I'm also laughing that you called Zach like just like a genuine nice guy. I was like, I know some people who really don't like him, so I just find that really interesting that you think of him as a nice guy.
I think it's funny because if you're a fan of somebody, you just like them anyway, don't you? Like Christian Horner could have gave €1 million to every homeless person in the world, and I'd still be like, "Ah, yeah, but it's still Christian Horner." Where literally Zach could take £1 million off everybody, and I'd be like, "Ah, sure, it's only Zach, isn't it? The poor fella." So I like him.
I suppose it is the way. But yes, papaya dominance. It's been Oscar versus Lando for the majority of the year and probably will be for the rest of the season as well. Who's your money on to take the victory at the end?
This keeps changing for me every single race weekend. So my heart says Lando Norris, right? I have a little soft spot for Lando Norris. I think he's great. I like the cut of his jib, right? I like Lando Norris. I don't think he has what it takes to beat Oscar Piastri. I know last weekend it was the car that let him down, but his driving lets him down. Qualifying means nothing to Lando Norris because 9 times out of 10 he's going to be passed in the first corner anyway. It's so frustrating being a Lando Norris fan in at the start of the race. All you want him to do is go off into the distance, have a nice, simple race. When Oscar Piastri gets out in front, he very rarely gives up that lead. So, honestly, in short, to answer your question, I think the 2025 World Drivers' Champion is going to be Oscar Piastri. What about you?
I have to agree. I think Oscar is just a more consistent driver. Like it's odd that because like the first race of the year, he was the one kind of on the back foot, but ever since then, he has just driven phenomenally well and has been the most consistent of the pair of them. Lando, when he's on form, oh my God, he's on form. And in his defense, I actually think his starts have gotten better. I think last weekend was just unfortunate and Max was just on it. Like there was no hope that he was getting that place in such the first or second corner. Max was like, "This is mine, and you're just going to have to brake." But otherwise, yeah, I'm in agreement. I do think that it's just Oscar just has that level-headedness that you see in world champions. Now, we could be wrong. Lando could absolutely turn this around after that engine failure over the weekend and just blow us all away for the rest of the season. But I don't see him being that consistent. Whereas Oscar hasn't really given us any reason to doubt that he would continue as he's been going on. So yeah, I'm voting for Oscar as well, which I never thought I'd say, considering I was so against him joining McLaren because he's the one that took Daniel Ricciardo's seat, and I was very upset about that because I was Team Daniel.
5 minutes into the Stop the Lights return, and Daniel Ricciardo's name has been mentioned. Actually, I have something to tell you about Daniel Ricciardo. My cousin, sorry, my auntie is married to a man who moved to Australia and married an Australian girl, and we were randomly at a family dinner about 2 months ago, and she's talking to me about Formula One. She's like, "Ah, yeah, my sister-in-law or something is best friends with Daniel Ricciardo." I was like, I literally said the phrase, "Stop the lights, reverse up that train there, and tell me a little bit more about this." So yeah, she knows Daniel Ricciardo quite well. Says you'll not be disappointed to hear, Olivia, a really really nice guy.
Oh, I love that. I just want to give him a hug.
Yeah.
I really do.
I kind of thought we'd see more of him around the paddock, like on TV, but they have no one has seemed to taken him up for any punditry. I mean, if you're going to have Villeneuve in there and you're going to have Nico Rosberg, surely Daniel Ricciardo is a man to have in there. He'd be great.
Well, the thing is, it's not a case of that they wouldn't have him. It's a case of would he have them? Like, does
That's
he
not
want to
true.
be around the paddock? Does he want to be doing these things? Like, he's busy selling his wine now, like Daniel's Rosé, which actually I really want to try. I've seen good reviews about it, so I'm like, I really want to get my hands on a bottle of Enchanté. But yeah, like you do kind of miss his personality,
Yeah.
his character. But we seem to be getting like a lot more personality out of the drivers in um the interview pack shed thing that they do post race. We just seem to be getting a lot more of that. And actually, Hulkenberg being one of them, I think, has been delivering a good few one-liners. Alex Albon as well, not just on the radio, but also in interviews. So we do still have a few characters at least to gravitate towards these days.
You mentioned Hulkenberg, a podium winning Hulkenberg. Unbelievable.
I know, who'd have thought that we would see in 2025 a Nico Hulkenberg debut podium and, especially given the first race of the year, an Isaac Hadjar podium as well. Like that already says to me that 2025 has been a spectacular year.
I wouldn't have put Hajar as well as kind of. It's probably too much to call him rookie of the year, right? He had a great weekend last weekend. He has had a couple of good weekends as well, to be fair. I thought Kimi Antonelli was going to be the man that we were talking about as being king of the rookies, and he was for the first couple of races. Kimi has had a really, really bad time of it lately.
He has, and I loved there was a video comparing what Kimi did with Charles Leclerc because of course he like just banged right into him and what Hamilton has done to other drivers as well, and it's a very similar incident, and they were like, oh, taking up the previous owner's habits. And I couldn't help but laugh because it was just like, yeah, actually, I thought that move looked familiar. But sure, I feel bad, making fun of Lewis Hamilton these days because bless him, he's not having a very good run of it, is he? And we've
Yeah.
talked about this so much, and it just keeps being like, oh, we hope that it gets better, but it hasn't. It seems to be getting worse.
Are you concerned? Because I know I like pulling back the curtain here. I have been speaking to you every single race. I haven't just stopped speaking to you over the last couple of months. But we're both feeling very sorry for Lewis Hamilton, and you were in no way a Lewis Hamilton fan. Really, you were starting to warm to him a little bit, I think, towards the end of last season. I'm concerned that he's going to walk away at the end of this year. You think no, he's going to want to have some sort of success next year.
Yeah, I feel that if he was able to come back after the end of 2021, I think that he will want to leave on a high. I don't think he's going to want to leave on this trajectory. So, and of course, with so many changes coming in for next year, you do have that hope that this is just the blip year and all of their energies is going into next year. So maybe things are going to be better for him next year, but if they're not, then, maybe we could see him leaving at the end of 2026. Who knows?
What did you make though of the Dutch Grand Prix overall? And it was one of those frustrating wet races where the rain didn't really matter, even though you could see it on the camera. The track never actually got wet enough for them to use intermediates, and they need to get rid of wet weather tires. They are wasting their money bringing them to races because if it rains too heavy, the FIA just stop the race anyway. So that's very frustrating. But the race kind of didn't really didn't blow me away, but yet it ended up with a lot of DNFs that were big DNFs.
Yeah, if you had said to me before the race started that Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton would be the only three retirements of the race, I would have asked you what were you drinking last night because you're clearly on something. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting race. It was very boring in parts, but then there were a couple of moments where it was quite interesting. And then you also had like the Carlos Sainz getting the penalty over Liam Lawson incident as well, and Kimi Antonelli racking up 15 seconds of a penalty by the end of the race. God bless him. But yeah, overall, for a Zandvoort race, it was a little bit more vanilla than we're used to. Even though there were so many incidents, it was still just a bit kind of like, yeah, okay, these things happened, but it wasn't as, gripping as I've known the Dutch Grand Prix to be. But you know what? We've got Monza this weekend, and that's usually a banger.
We'll talk about Monza in a little minute. I want to ask you about Carlos Sainz's penalty and his reaction on the radio, and why, when we have so much access in Formula One, there is a camera everywhere. There's a camera inside their helmet, for God's sake. Why don't we have an insight into what happens in a steward's room between the stewards and the driver? Because honestly, I don't know why Carlos Sainz got that penalty. The FIA came out and said this is the reason why, and he got added like 2 penalty points to his license and everything. He was very angry. If I was a steward, I would have been quite concerned about Carlos Sainz coming up those stairs. But what did you make of that penalty? And do you think we'll ever get to see the inside of the steward's room?
No, because it's a protected, like, it's like a jury. You don't get to see a jury deliberating, so why would you get to see the stewards deliberating? I know it's not as serious, but it's
Hmm.
that same kind of concept. So I don't need to see the inside of it because they have actually started giving the reasons. Just because we disagree with the reason doesn't mean that that's not their reason for doing it. So I definitely don't think Carlos should have gotten a penalty, but I also kind of don't think that Liam should have gotten a penalty either. I saw it more as a racing incident
Yeah, me
because
too.
they like neither of them really just had anywhere to go. So, like the way it is, it's like Liam like turned into Carlos, but Liam also didn't have anywhere else to go. So, like for me, it was a racing incident. Slightly more, maybe if you were going to blame someone, I would have put it on Liam. But at the end of the day, they decided to go with Carlos, and they're supposed to be the experts. So you just like clearly there was a some sort of reason or rule that made it more Carlos's fault than Liam's that we just don't see because we're not like
Yeah, we're not the
like as
we're
much.
not experts. Like, to be fair, in the actual rules of the sport, I suppose they kind of
Yes.
go, and they have like as they always say in commentary, they've all those like CCTV cameras, they've got the telemetry, they've everything in front of them. So like for something like when Lewis Hamilton was given a penalty for next week because he crashed out in this one, as well as it was a penalty on the way to the track, they could see that he didn't slow down enough under yellow flags. They had a double wave yellow at the end of the track because of the way Zandvoort is and the way it curves around. They wanted to protect people who are already on the grid. Really, really frustrating for Hamilton, but he only slowed down by 20 kilometers. And the steward said that is not slow enough, and he gets a penalty for next weekend. I mean, if it doesn't rain, it pours for poor Lewis.
It really does. And you know what? Because I didn't know that that was the reason. I knew it was like that he didn't slow under double
Mm.
yellows. And I was just like, but he was the one that crashed. So like how could he how could he
It was
slow
on
for his
on the
own
way
yellows?
to the grid, yeah. And then
Yeah, I
so
figured there was something else, but I was just like, but it's like, but hang on, the only time that there would have been waved yellows was for him. So
yeah, yeah. It was and very frustrating. And then because when they go to the track, they sometimes do 2 or 3 laps, but they have to go through the pit lane because the grid is full of other cars. And he was also
Mhm.
reprimanded for attacking the line too much and only braking 70 meters before the white line. So whatever was going on in Lewis Hamilton's head that day, I'm kind of not surprised that he had a bit of an incident and crashed out.
That's actually very, very fair. And it's just unfortunate that this penalty comes when he is about to approach his first Monza Grand Prix as a Ferrari driver. Like, that has to sting.
How do you think the Ferrari fans, because I'm not a Ferrari fan, how do you think they've taken to Lewis Hamilton, or have they taken to him? Because we've seen in Drive to Survive, when Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are driving for Ferrari, when they go to Monza, they are mobbed from start to finish. Do you think that's going to happen with Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it doesn't, to be honest, because at the end of the day, they are Ferrari supporters as
Hmm.
opposed to the
Hmm.
individuals themselves. And Lewis is kind of like a star in his own right. Like all of the drivers are, but Lewis in particular has just made himself into such a super mega star brand. So there's also going to be the Lewis fans who are now kind of supporting Ferrari because of him. So I'd be very surprised if we don't see the massive crowds outside of the hotel in Monza that they stay in. Which I have seen with my own two eyes, and it looks so unassuming from the outside,
Hmm.
and then you just
Hmm.
see like this absolute mob of people outside, and you're like, oh, okay, so that must be that hotel then, you
You
know?
were
See,
you've been there, right? At Monza.
I
What is that?
have.
What is that Ferrari noise like when that red car passes you by?
Oh, it is deafening. Like not just like regular, just very, very noisy. It is
Mhm.
up, like you feel it in your soul. And if you are there, not in Ferrari colors, and you're surrounded by Ferrari supporters, you feel like you're in danger.
Were
Not
you wearing Max colors?
So one of the days I wore my what I called my protest shirt. So it's actually my Daniel Ricciardo
Hmm.
McLaren
Hmm.
t-shirt.
Hmm.
So I wore that for one of the days. I wore my Max Verstappen cap the whole way through. So I had that on, and I had my Red Bull shirt on for one of the days. But it was too bleeding hot, and for where we were sitting at the Parabolica, there was no shade. So we literally were just baking in the sun constantly, and like everybody was hiding under the stands because they were the only spots with shade. But then like you couldn't see the race, so yeah, I was pretty exposed in my support of Red Bull. But I always remember. So we went in 2023 and Max rounded the Parabolica, went for the line, got pole position, and then like 2 seconds later, we see Sainz go by in the Ferrari, and everyone was already kind of going, "Oh," because of Max.
Hmm.
And then suddenly it goes that Sainz has actually gotten pole, and the place erupted. And I will never forget that moment of just everyone going, "Oh!" ah!" because they
I
were just so
love that.
delighted.
I love that. You know, like and like in fairness, it's the best podium in all of Formula One. I kind of like Mexico as well in that kind of stadium section they have, but like just seeing all the red come up to the start finish line where that podium is it's a sight to behold.
It is, and one thing that I really like about Monza as well is that they still make sure that it is like the community comes first. So a lot of what I would call actually there's some sections there that I'm like, these are really great seats, but they are for Monza people only.
Oh.
So that's where like the residents and stuff get their seats for. And I was like, ah, that's annoying because these are really good seats. I would have liked to have tried to get seats here. But that those are their seats. So unless I become a Monza resident, I ain't getting my hands on them.
We have spoken about McLaren, we've spoken about Ferrari, a little bit about Red Bull, but what about Yuki Tsunoda? Because is he just keeping that seat warm until 2026? Surely they can't go at him for another year.
Honestly, I don't know because at the end of the day, they've kind of proven that it's not the driver really. Like Max, because the car just sort of suits his style
Hmm.
better.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like he is able to get more out of it, but even he is struggling with it as well. So it's clearly there's an issue with the car as opposed to the driver. So it's really hard to judge how much of an effect Yuki is actually having on it. I think even like Helmut Marko was being asked, is Isaac going to be put into that seat for next year? And he was kind of like shrugging his shoulders, being like, oh, like there's been no decisions made as of yet.
Hmm.
So you just don't know what way that they're going to go. Especially now that, because actually something we forgot to mention as well, Perez is going to be on the grid next year alongside Bottas because they finally confirmed the Cadillac seats. And it's interesting when he came out and he was like, well, look, everyone's seeing it now. Like, it wasn't just a me problem, it was a car problem. And you're like, yeah, that's fair. You can't really argue with that.
Why would he heap all that pressure on himself though? Like, say nothing. Like, I know how he feels, but now, like, he's going to be in a car that's unproven. He might spend the whole year actually bringing up the entire rear of that pack. He has just heaped a whole lot of pressure on himself.
Yeah, and like I do hope that they're competitive because you don't want them to be like the new minorities
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
the group. But, you even see it with, like, say, Lewis and Carlos and drivers who have changed into a new team. Like, it has taken them quite a while to get to grips with this new setup. So you could see Bottas and Checo having the same issues, or they could be like half a season really not competitive just because they're still trying to get used to this new car setup. But they could also surprise us. Cadillac could do a flipping brawn on it. Like, you just don't know.
Oh, are you calling for a Cadillac to win a world championship?
I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying maybe we shouldn't like just be binning them from the offset because like that's what happened when Braun F1 became a team. Everyone was like, "Oh, they're just going to be shite," and then look what happened. Button
Yeah,
became a
they
world champion.
they
So you
were
just don't
not.
know.
Okay, so one of the other biggest things coming from this year and happening in Monza for the second time this year is Mr. Alex Dunn, currently fifth in the World Drivers' Championship, the tricolour beside his name. We've heard of Ron Naveen numerous times this year in F2 races. He's stepping back into a McLaren car. I'm not too much of a man to say this, Olivia. I have shed many a tear watching Mr. Alex Dunn this year already.
He has just done such a fantastic job, and like he has been leading the championship as well. He's had quite an unlucky run of races just before the summer break there now, with some penalties that didn't
Oh,
go his
penalties.
way, and a lovely was it a second place podium that was taken away from him recently enough as well. So like you do really feel for him. Like he should be higher up in that standing if it wasn't for all of these other issues. But he has done spectacularly well, and yes, he is getting back into the McLaren for final free practice. I keep calling it final practice. I don't know why. Free practice one, and he is now. Is it? Do we know? Is he going to be in Lando's car again, or is it
I
this time
was
he's going to be in
about
Oscar's?
to ask you the exact same question. So he was in Lando Norris's car the last time, and Lando went on to win the race. And so I'm sure Lando would be like, pop him in. Because Lando didn't finish the last race, I wonder if it's going to be Piastri this time anyway, even though it was Lando the last time. So we don't know yet
Well,
which car it's going
actually,
to be.
that could be a case of that it would be Lando's car then, because then he can do all the technical fiddly bits
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
free practice one to get it set up again, which is basically what he did the last time. Like, without it wasn't for like an engine change or fixtures or anything like that. But that's essentially what he was doing because there was a first couple of laps, he was very much like not competitive. He was way down the bottom, just kind of, and he actually hadn't even set a full lap time up until the last like 10, 15 minutes when they just said, okay, now you can go out and have fun. And where did he finish? Fourth.
Yeah, it's
Fourth.
amazing. Amazing.
He's the only F2 driver to have like not qualified, but to have finished a free practice run that high up in the standings so far this year. That is saying something. Now, it's also saying something that the McLaren is also the best car on the grid this year.
Yeah.
But, you've put other drivers into good cars and they've, shot the bed. So he's really proving himself to be a talent. And, if there was a seat for him next year, I think that'd be great. If there isn't a seat for him next year, I could see him going more into and maybe not doing another year of F2, especially if he doesn't win the championship. I would see him going maybe into Formula E because I think that would be a better experience than
Really?
than doing another F2 and
Coming
then
out
going
of
into F1.
That's interesting. I would have thought maybe a reserve driver instead, like a reserve Formula One driver for a team instead of going to Formula E. That's interesting that you've mentioned Formula E. I didn't think of that as an avenue for him at all.
Well, to be brutally honest, how much does a reserve driver really do? Like they're in the simulator mostly. They're
Yeah,
not
but you're
actually out on
around though.
track.
You're around and you're around the team and you're kind of like, you're nudging the team principal, like, oh, remember me, I'm here. Like if the drivers have a bad day, you're like, don't forget about me. I'm still here, just to be around the team.
I think the best way that he can remind people that he's still around is to be winning races.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer to see him do Formula 2 rather than Formula E because really, like, do people really watch Formula E?
Yeah, it's on Virgin Media now. It's
Is it
actually
really?
it's actually so much easier to watch Formula E now than it ever was, and it's actually quite enjoyable. I watched the London Grand Prix there not too long ago.
Look at you. I think I've only ever watched maybe 20 minutes of Formula E, and it was the lack of sound for me that I was like, "What? This is weird. It's really strange."
Well, like it's come on leaps and bounds over the years since it first came to be its own sport. Like they
Hmm.
no longer have to change car halfway through because the batteries now last the entire race. But it's like I enjoy Formula E. I think it's actually it's quite fun. And then also when you hear names that you recognize, because there's a lot of former Formula One drivers that are in Formula E as well. So you're kind of like, oh, I do remember Jean-Eric Verne, and oh, I do remember Sebastian Buemi and things like that. So it's quite fun from that aspect as well, that, there's a familiarity to it, as well. It's not just like this brand new thing where you have to learn a bunch of names.
Do you ever find that Formula One races are too long?
As in like too many laps?
Too many laps, or well, it's not really about the lap count, is it? It's about but they're either between 90 minutes or 2 hours long, right? That's a general Formula One race because Autosport today we're chatting to Stefano Domenicali, and he says, this is a quote from him: "We believe it's a bit too long for young people. Are they going to try and reduce the number of laps and time? Or is Formula One about to get TikToked?"
Um, so here's the thing. A human, and not just a young human, it's like just in general, humans' attention span is apparently 30 minutes. So on average. And then
Uh-huh.
afterwards, that's when you start to kind of like drop off. So you can really hold someone's attention for that amount of time. With your average Formula One race, there is usually enough kind of going on that can hold your attention for longer. And it's like with a movie, there's going to be ebbs and flows to kind of hold your attention, and then there's like a bit of a come down, and then it builds it back up again. There's usually some sort of storyline to a race that kind of holds your attention for that little bit longer. Young people these days just don't have that, shall we say? Um, like I always remember in school, like our classes were 40 minutes long, and they literally said to us, the reason they're 40 minutes is because we know we can hold your attention for 30, and then we're going to chance our arm with another 10. That's literally what they did. So I can understand his logic behind, thinking that maybe things are too long, but I don't think having the races shorter is the way to do it. I liked the idea because it works quite well, I think, with the Formula 2 when they have the sprint be a reverse grid.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite fun. Doing something quirky like that could work better than just shortening the race, because then it puts drivers into different positions that they wouldn't normally be in. So, for example, you'd have Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri starting a race from ninth and 10th as opposed to up the front. So you get to see how well they can do actually coming up through the field, which, they probably will do very well, but seeing overtakes and that kind of challenge is more entertaining than just watching them run off into the sunset.
100%. I think watch this space though, because God only knows what the FIA could actually
Yeah.
decide to do to Formula One. This weekend, though, we are race weeking again, and it was a long summer break where nothing happened. Literally, there was no need for any breaking news
Yeah.
templates from the Formula One X account this summer break at all. Everybody seemed to be on the beach, and it's a decent enough time as well for Monza because we're still in Europe. It's the last European race, I think, for quite a good while. You've got qualifying 2:15, and the race is at 2 o'clock. So a nice afternoon race once again. And I'm going to predict something absolutely outrageous here, and I'm going to say it's going to be a McLaren 1-2 in Monza as well. I'm
Do you
not
know
going to say
what?
what 1-2. I'm just going to go 1-2.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's not a McLaren 1-2, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see Leclerc on the podium as well. Now, if it's a Hamilton podium, I would applaud that myself.
Mhm.
But I would see it being more of a Leclerc because he does very well around Monza. He knows it like the back of his hand. So I would hope that the Monza fans would kind of spur the two of them on. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Leclerc at least on the podium in some position. I doubt it'll be first, but who knows? That's the thing with this year. It's like no one would have predicted Hulkenberg to be on that like podium that year. I actually had it as I actually had the top three being Piastri, Lando, and Hamilton. So if Hamilton had actually
Oh,
overtaken him, I
God.
would have like won a load of points in our prediction league with Carl Mullen's prediction league. Actually, is what I'm a part of, and
Go on, say it. You topped it this week. Come on, it's okay. You can
I
say
did.
it.
I topped with it. Well, I only got like 30 points for the Hungarian Grand Prix, so I really did badly that week. But yeah, no, did quite well last weekend for Zandvoort. So I've clearly found my rhythm again. But yeah, I was like, I will gladly lose all those points because it's a Hulkenberg podium. But yeah, it's you just don't know with this year. Like it's really hard to predict what's actually going to happen. But Yeah, we could see an Alonso podium for all we know.
Maybe, but he's just too angry in that car at the minute. I think he just needs to just
Yeah.
calm down a little bit. Olivia, we have, I think, crammed in basically 4 months of everything into 25 minutes or 30 minutes. I think we've done very, very well here. And I have to say, I'm so happy to be back talking
Me
Formula One with
too.
you.
I've missed this so much. And yes, hopefully we will be back next week with another episode where we can talk all of the randomness that happened in Monza that we have not been able to predict. And yeah, then we'll be getting ready for the final chapter of the season. Woo!
Yeah, 8 races left after Monza, so bring it on.
Brilliant. And you can follow us on social media at Stop the Lights Pod on Instagram. And yeah, we will chat to you all again next time. For now, I've been Olivia.
And I'm Ciarán.
Bye.